Hello everyone, we are back with Immunology series and today we have Shrishti's presentation on autoimmune disease and then followed up by Nashra's presentation. Shrishti, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Noreen. So today's first presentation is on the topic autoimmune disease. Most of this is based on SciM article by Lawrence Steinman. In the next 30 minutes, we'll do a focused discussion study immunology and what is autoimmune disease for that matter. We can delve deeper by studying an autoimmune condition called multiple sclerosis. What happens to our body in this condition and how do scientists and medical professionals all around the world deal with it? After a week long of presentations, one question that might have crossed everyone's mind must be, hey, why do we care about immunology so much? What does this diet need that we have to study it? Now, on the screen, you see this beautiful woman right here. It looks like she's facing some kind of issues, some kind of a problem. She's coughing. We don't know what it is, all right. We don't know what the condition she's going through. But there is a good chance that some sort of a microorganism, pathogen intruded her body and hampered with the functions, so she fell ill. Now, did you know that we encounter like some 60,000 types of germs in a single day? But not all of them are able to trouble us, right? Like all the soap sanitizer ads say that 99% of times we are safe from germs harming us. Not because the soap brand is amazing, but because our body's defense mechanism, the immune system is amazing. Of course, barring in some conditions, which brings us to the topic for the day, that is autoimmune disease. What is an autoimmune disease? As the name suggests, it is a condition where the immune system starts causing trouble to itself, a condition in which body's immune system mistakes its own healthy tissues as foreign and targeting different parts of body like brain, the thyroid gland, bones, muscle, skin, etc. Now, this is Lily, a perfectly happy child, as you can see. She's conscious about her health, takes care of her nutrition, and is aware of her body. Things we should all learn from Lily. However, when she turned 26, she started facing certain issues. These issues included tingling in her legs, pain in her arms, and a year later, the situation worsened a bit. The situation worsened a bit. She had a single episode of double vision that lasted a week, and she started facing trouble maintaining her balance while walking. She immediately consulted the doctor and was diagnosed with a condition called multiple sclerosis. Now, because she's aware, she wants to know what exactly is happening to her body, and we'll all see what she found out. It so happens that our body has some self-reacting cells that attack itself. This is actually beneficial because these cells help in cleaning and eliminating the mess created by dead and dying cells. The thymus is supposed to silence these cells so they don't escape out, attacking the healthy cells. But in this particular so it fails to silence the self-reacting cells, which thus escape out of the attacking the healthy self. Microbes also have a role to play in including inducing this autoimmune disease. Now, this is a bad analogy, but I think it will clarify a lot of things. Let's say a body is a fort. I hope I'm still audible. Let's
Yes,
say our
Srishti.
body is a, yeah, thank you so much. Let's say our body is a fort, the king's fort, and we have a huge army of cells and organs that protect this fort. Now, because we have so many soldiers, to avoid confusion, we decide to use a password. Let's say the password is I ate an apple. When a soldier tells this password, the body recognizes as self and lets him in. Now, our oversmart enemy overhears the password, but not entirely. Instead of the entire thing, I ate an apple, he says, an apple, and the kingsmen confuse him for being their own and grants them access in the fort. This tactic used by the antigens is called molecular mimicry. What exactly turns the T cells against the self? Infection often precedes the onset of autoimmune disease, and so scientists have closely scrutinized the tactics that pathogens commonly employ to elude T cells. The answer appears to lie in a molecular mimicry, and mimicry works by showing the immune system stretches out of amino acids that look like self. For example, adenovirus type 2 has amino acid sequences like those in crucial fragment of myelin basic proteins. In responding routinely to this virus, the immune system may become primed to attack the corresponding self component myelin. The pattern of decline system in these conditions have shown to correlate strongly with three other factors in the environment: female hormones, infections, and stress, which is maybe why females are more prone to autoimmune diseases than men, as you can see from the data. So now, Lilly participated in trials of a drug that eliminates a crucial actor in the autoimmune response. In the first month, she received 3 intravenous transfusions of a genetically engineered antibody to a molecule on certain T cells. She underwent therapy once every 4 months. As a result, the number of her T cells has declined far below the usual level. Yet, other parts of the body, the immune system, continue to function normally, and Kim has developed no infections. Her symptoms have remained stable with transient strengthening of her right hand and occasional periods of improvement in her walking. She now uses a cane only when walking outside her home. In the past year, clinical trials have produced promising results for 3 experimental treatments of multiple sclerosis. Oral doses has interrupted the process of inflammation, inhibiting relapses and thereby slowing the progression of disease. Small amounts of insulin administered for the same purpose have at least delayed, in some cases, perhaps prevented the onset of diabetes in children at high risk for the disease. These findings suggest that advances in the treatment of the autoimmune disease may yield dividends for all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Srishti, for your presentation. Let's move on to the next presentation and come back to the question. Nashra, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a second.
Sure.
I'm not able to share the screen. Can you please allow me?
All right. Sure. Now you might be. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you about a story. Story about Anna and her allergy. Feat Lawrence M. Lichtenstein is going to narrate it by me, who is Nashra Mobeen. I'm doing BSc in Genetics, Chemistry, and Microbiology from St. Anne's College for Women in Hyderabad. Now, let me introduce about the characters. So the first character is Anna. Anna is a 20-year-old curious mind diagnosed with allergic rhinitis. Allergens. They vary from indoor dust mites to outside pollen. Mr. Lawrence, who is a professor of medicine and director of asthma and allergy centers at Johns Hopkins University. Anna's allergy was creating problem for her in day-to-day life. She badly wanted to get rid of it. And her doctor already warned her that these allergens are going to stay with her, and it's her decision how she handles it, whether she wanted it to be a hate story or love story. So she thought to take help of Mr. Lawrence by reading his paper on allergy and immune system, which was published in 1993 in Science magazine. Now, Anna wanted to get rid of her allergy, but to do that, she knows something which can be helpful for her, and it is the only way to defeat your enemy is to know them well. So now she wanted to know, before going deep into the paper, she wanted to know some of the very basic terms like what is allergy. So allergy is an immune system response to foreign substance that's not typically harmful to your body. Yes, actually, the allergens are not harmful to Anna's body, but it creates so hindrance for her daily life. These foreign substances are called as allergens. Oh yes, the middle character. They can include the certain food, pollen, or pet dander. So, your immune system's job is to keep you healthy by fighting these harmful pathogens. Now, what are the allergies? Anna was much curious about it. So, allergies includes the allergic rhinitis, asthma, sneezing, nausea, wheezing, shortness of breath, hay fever, and food allergy. Now, the most important question is, if we consider as the most latest version of Homo sapiens, that is Homo sapiens sapiens, and we fought the fight, as Darwin said, that survival of the fittest, the question comes, why allergy exists? Why natural selection has allowed allergy to become so widespread? This was a question which Anna was so much curious about it, that why do allergy exist? Why I have to go through these every single day? So to understand that, first she has to understand the origin of allergy. So it turns out that the proposal derives from the observation that certain features of allergy occurs only one circumstance when immune system attempts to eradicate parasites. It turns out that in earlier days, the parasites, when encounters the human body, the immune system attempts to eradicate them. So that might be the important event for the origin of allergy. So in response to both allergens and parasite, the body produces high qualities of molecules known as immunoglobulin E, that is IgE antibody. Now, the hypothesis suggests that the allergic response initially evolved to help the body to cope up with the parasites. So ideally, what should happen? Ideally, the people who had those genes would have survived better and fought the survival for the fittest fight. So it turns out to be yes. The people whose genetic endowment enabled them to mount an effective immune attack against these organisms would have enjoyed the survival advantage. So they possibly passed on their genes to their offspring, which results in living longer than counterpart who lack such defense mechanism. Now, this is the version where encountering the parasite has become normal in human beings. So it is into their genes now. So in human population, the parasite defense system became common where they were abundant. It means that where the parasites were there and they used to encounter the human body, it becomes a normal immune defense for human. But while in others there weren't any other parasite, the immune system is now free to encounter other allergens such as pollen. So to support the thesis, the epidemiologist found that allergic disease is less common in developing than in developed nation, where public health measures have eliminated most exposure to parasites. So, which means that allergy should not exist. Ooh, Anna was really excited that now I have found something that allergy should not exist, as they are already proving that it is less common in developing than in developed nation where they eliminated most exposure to the parasite. Yet, animal studies designed to test the proposal is not leading to any firm conclusion. Anna was as upset at this moment because the mystery remained unsolved. Why do allergy exist? But she was happy that now she found out that what is the origin of allergy? Why do allergy exist? Rather than finding the answer why it has to be eradicated. So, moving on, she wanted to understand the physiological basis of allergic response, to which led to an instance that different allergens evoke different system, and also if an allergen encounters the different parts of the same body, it evokes different system. So for example, if there's an allergen and it affects the airways, and even in the airways, if it affects the upper part of the body, upper part of the airways, then it causes allergic rhinitis and nasal congestion. While if it affects the lower part of the body, it causes constriction and obstruction of bronchi. And if it affects the gastrointestinal tract, which is far away from the airways, it causes nausea, abdominal cramps, and diarrhea. Now it was time to understand the allergic reaction. What are allergic reactions? How they respond? So to understand that, first she wanted to know, first she wanted to be familiar with some of the terminologies like IgE antibodies. What are they? So IgE antibodies are well known for their role in mediating allergic reactions and are normally found in a small amount in the blood, but higher amount can be a sign that the body overreacts to allergen. This is a very interesting point, that higher amount can be a sign that body overreacts to allergen, which you'll get to know in further slides. So this is the structure of immunoglobulin, which consists of light chain and heavy chain and antigen binding sites. And these are the antigen, which is none other than the allergen. So the next term is interleukin. So interleukins are the group of naturally occurring cytokinins proteins first seen to be expressed by white blood cells that mediate communication between cells. And interleukin regulates cell growth, differentiation, motility. They're particularly important in stimulating immune responses such as inflammation. Now, there's another term which is known as mast cell. So, mast cell is derived from bone marrow, resides into the tissue, and settle close to blood vessels and epithelium, and covers the surface by which our body make contact to the outer world. Next term is basophils. Basophils are also derived from the bone marrow and differentiate into white blood cells and circulate through the bloodstream. After reading the paper, Anna got to know that there are stages of allergic reaction. Oh my god, that then it means that allergy is something very much serious. So the stages of allergic reaction include sensitization, activation of mast cell, and prolonged immunity. So sensitization is, you can say, the first exposure of the allergens. So firstly, when the allergens encounters the body, the macrophage engulfs the foreign particle and it chop into the pieces, which results in expressing them over the cell surface. As you can see here, the red color one is the one expressing the allergens into the on its cell surface. Immediately, T lymphocytes recognize the displayed fragments and comes and binds to them. Now, after binding to these uh, fragments, the T lymphocyte secretes interleukin 4. And why specifically interleukin 4? You'll get to know in further slides. So, this interleukin 4, which prod the B lymphocytes to mature into the antibody secreting plasma cell. Now, as if you can see that these red colors are the IgE antibody, and B lymphocytes is matured into the plasma cells and is releasing the IgE antibody. Now, the plasma cells, whose work was to secrete the IgM antibodies, whose function is to activates the B lymphocyte cells, switches over to produce IgE antibody. So it turns out that the IgE antibody first attaches itself to the two of the cells, the mast cells and the basophils. And as earlier I said that the mast cells is derived from the bone marrow and it resides into the tissue, and which makes the contact with the outside world. And the basophils is the one running into the bloodstream. So IgE antibody attaches themselves onto the mast cell and the basophils and sits there quietly and wait for its allergen to for the next encounter. In this process, the sensitization process, it do not evoke any symptom. It means that the allergens encounters the body and it do not evoke any symptom. The body is living happily and it doesn't know that it was affected by any allergen. But our body is the most advanced one, so it creates the memory that the allergens were way before introduced in the body, and now they have the memory that IgE antibody is specific to this allergen. So the next step is activation of mast cell. Now you can term it as the second exposure, where allergens first encounters the human tissue, where this big whole cell is the mast cell, and on its surface is the antibody, which is IgE. So allergens tries to bind with at least two IgE body to form bridge between them and cross-linking. So cross-linking is something very important. These aggregated IgE receptors switches on several cascades, as you can see that the cascades here, calcium store, lipid body, and these all are leading to any further specific process. So these aggregated IgE receptors switches on several cascades, which ends into the releasing of mediator. And this whole process is depend on enzyme proteinase few other enzymes like tyrosine kinase, phospholipid A2, and these are the some of the enzymes which helps into the activation of mast cell. Now the activation of mast cells occurs. So now body is active about and knows about the allergens. So here comes the next step, which is uh, releasing of important allergic mediator. So allergic mediators are the one like first is histamine and another is lipids. So mast cell secretes two of the very important allergic mediators, that is known as histamine and lipids. So what does histamine do? So histamine releases the primary uh, symptoms of the allergy, such as constricts bronchial airways, which leads to the difficulty in breathing, dilates blood vessels, which results into the local redness at sites of allergens delivery. And if dilation is widespread, it can contribute to lethal drop in blood pressure, which may result in the shock. And increased permeability of a small blood vessels, which results into the swelling of local tissue. Stimulates nerve ending, which results in itching and pain in skin. And similarly, the lipid mediators, that are leukotrienes, as you can see here, the leukotrienes and prostaglandins, these are the lipid mediator, and while histamine and other chemicals are the uh, histamine mediator. So lipid mediators has also the similar activity and symptom as of histamine. So now the another step is prolonged immunity. How does that achieve? Anna was very curious. So after the mast cells activation, there comes the role of basophils. So basophils is now into the picture. So mast cells triggers the release of chemicals that penetrates into the local blood vessels and adhere on the circulating leukocytes and endothelial cells. Now, leukocytes stick to blood cell walls, roll along with it, and migrate between the endothelial cell and out into the surrounding tissue. The chemicals like interleukin 3 and interleukin 5 facilitates the migration of basophils and prolong their survival. So as you can see that here the basophils is trying to migrate from the endothelial cell to the outside surrounding tissue, and these are the one for their migration, interleukin 3 and 5 helps in their migration and helps also in prolong their survival. So once the basophils release into the tissue, it also helps in secreting some of the chemicals which results in the prolonged immunity. Now, to sum up all this allergic reaction, there was experiment conducted in Johns Hopkins University. So where first they deliver allergens into the airways and skin of allergic volunteer. Symptoms appear within minutes, and which leads to the acute phase, that is at the cellular level. So this is the first defense where the mast cell activations comes to the rescue, and this phase is termed as acute phase and is at the cellular level. But after few times the symptoms disappear but returns after few hours, so which leads to the late phase, which means that there is an inflammation response produced by the basophils and other leukocyte activation. So Anna, at this point, Anna was much clear about how allergic response occurs and how our body immune system respond to those allergens. So as you can see that the condition of human mast cells, that this one is the before and this one is the after. So as you can see that these red black small spheres are the few granules that display extensive alteration of the surface. The largest sphere, sorry, the largest spheres in the cell and the left are lipid bodies which may participate in synthesizing the lipids secreted by stimulated mast cells. So this is the condition before allergen encounters to the body, and this is the condition where allergens encounters the body after. At this point, Anna was clear about the process, but there was something triggering for her. It was the report of it was her immunoglobulin test reports where she observed that she has way higher IgE antibodies. So normally IgE antibodies should be 150, but her antibodies were approx 300. And so she called her friend Bina, who was also allergic patient. So she asked her, what is your immunoglobulin test reports? So her friend told that her IgE antibodies are 1100. So that prompts the question that why do allergic individuals generate abnormally high level of IgE antibodies? So the concentration of non-IgE antibodies in the blood typically vary little from person to person, whereas those of IgE antibody can vary considerably. In allergic individuals, IgE level remains much lower than those of other antibody classes, but they can be thousands of times higher than those in non-allergic people. So what is the reason behind it? So remember I earlier told you that the T lymphocyte secretes interleukin 4. So here it comes. The T cells in allergic lesion includes two varieties. First one is Th1 and another is Th2. Th1 secretes gamma interferons and interleukin 2, while they do not secrete interleukin 4 and interleukin 5. And Th2 secretes interleukin 4 and interleukin 5 and do not secrete gamma interferon. And let me tell you that in allergic patient, Th2 predominates. What is the significance of interleukin 4 and gamma interferon and why they are talking about this? So she later searched on and found that the interleukin 4 encourages B lymphocytes to make IgE more than other bodies. Okay, now this makes sense. T cells in allergic patients where Th2 predominates, which secretes interleukin 4 but do not secrete gamma interferon. What is the significance of gamma interferon here? So while gamma interferon retards the synthesis, which means that it opposes the synthesis of IgE. So since it predominates and releases interleukin 4, which encourages IgE antibody, and also the do not secrete gamma interferons, which means that there are pretty much great number of IgE antibodies. So individual mix with Th1 and Th2 determines whether B cell give rise to IgE or other antibody. At this point, Anna was clear why do allergy exist, why she has much higher IgE level, and what is the how her body responds to allergens. Now this became more of a generalized point of view rather than a personalized point of view. She wanted to know more about allergies, not specifically about with which she was diagnosed, but she wanted to know more about the allergies. So she got to know that there are deadly allergies. So scientists were focusing more on to find out the best ways to diagnose and treat specific allergic conditions. So they focused mostly on allergic rhinitis. Anna was really happy that it was it was the allergy with which she was diagnosed. So allergic rhinitis has two forms. First one is hay fever, seasonal it has the seasonal symptoms, reacts to pollen of trees in spring and pollen of wheats in fall. She wasn't affected with this hay fever because she knows that her allergies resides throughout the year, so which is perennial, which is caused by indoor allergens and ubiquitous dust mites. Allergic rhinitis is never fatal but may lead to complications such as asthma, pretty much deadly allergy. And now there are other allergies such as anaphylaxis, which has the allergic reaction at sites distant from the port of entry into the blood. So, for example, if there is a sting on your hand and the allergic symptoms appears to be the reaction can disturb normal functioning throughout the body and may end in death. So how just from the small bee sting, it disturbs the whole normal functioning of the body and may lead to death. So it is quite a deadly allergy. So what is the treatment for it? First is antihistamine generally is proved to be effective and are still the standard treatment. Anna quickly went to her room and got her medicine and was surprised to know that the ingredients include the composition include the antihistamine. So yes, she was taking the treatment. Corticosteroids. She remembered that when she went to the doctor when her allergies were very serious, doctor suggested that if the antihistamine could not control the allergy, she may put her on corticosteroids. For severe cases, immunotherapy is used where patients are given escalating dose of the allergens to which they are allergic and which may provide relief. To this point wasn't even Mr. Lawrence wasn't even able to explain it in his paper. He says that I wish it to be more simplified, but I'm upset that I can't. Now the only way is to take healthy diet to make immune system strong and take antihistamine. So Anna is now satisfied with all her allergies and all because she knows that they are going to stay with her throughout her life, and but now she knows that how they works and what steps she has to take. I hope you enjoyed Anna's story. Anna and her allergy story feed Mr. Lawrence. So thank you.
Thank you, Nashra. Congratulations. Both the presentations were awesome. You had a storyline in it. And now let's move on to the question and answer session. Do you have any questions for Srishti and Nashra? Anybody? All right. I'll take that as a no. Okay, so Srishti, this question is for both of you, Nashra and Srishti. What were the high points while reading the article and while preparation of the presentation? What did you feel, and what did you learn while reading it and while preparing for the presentation? Nasha, you can go first.
Oh, thank you. So this paper was really special for me because I was also diagnosed with allergic rhinitis. So I had a lot of questions since I was diagnosed with allergic rhinitis. So my doctor told me about all this, and I was very curious about how I had a lot of questions. So while reading this paper, I got so I got all my doubts clear. I got all my answers, like specifically why IG antibody is higher in allergic patients and why not in other human beings, and also what is the origin of allergy. So from where does it comes, and also it triggers the mind when you read the paper that since we are following the Darwin's rule, the survival of the fittest and natural selection, so allergy should be eradicated way before that, because natural selection, so the allergic patient should not exist and also allergy should not exist, but that doesn't happen. So I was much curious about it, and especially how the mast cell and basophils, they both come together and help in the prolonged immunity and help in immune response to those allergens. So it all it cleared my doubts, and there was one thing which I didn't know, that allergic rhinitis has two forms. I was always curious that why some of the people have just seasonal allergies and why I have throughout the year I am allergic. Why is that? So I thought that that is something else. Like I have allergic rhinitis and they might have something else. But when I read this paper, I got to know that there are two forms of allergic rhinitis, which is a seasonal and a perennial. So yes, I enjoyed reading this paper, and personally it helped me a lot. So yeah.
So finally, you got all the answers for your questions.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Srishti, what about you?
Am I audible?
Yes, Srishti, you are.
Please let me know if I get stuck, okay? Because it's still very unstable.
Sure.
Yeah. So the other day, I was listening to a conversation between a doctor and a patient who is suffering from an autoimmune disease, and the conversation made this paper an obvious choice for me. I went through the paper. It was a very interesting read. I learned many concepts and many new facts. Some specific concepts like I thought that microbes do not have anything to do with autoimmune diseases, but it turns out that they play a very important role, and which was very interesting to know. There are many other facts too. So today, I mean, I made the presentation today itself in the morning. During the reading, I found out a lot of things. I went through a lot of YouTube videos, so it excited me a lot. That's all.
Thank you, Srishti. And I would like to ask you why would you suggest others to read your papers? What is that one thing? Yeah.
Right. So I started with the slide that says, why do we care about immunology? Why do we care to study immunology? So the thing is that it is very interesting to understand how our body works. And in this specific paper, everything is explained in such easy ways. Many interesting facts are mentioned, like I say, what do microbes have to do with the body, or what do genes have to do with the body. It also turns out that when people who suffer from these autoimmune diseases, like the one I saw in the video, the YouTube video, she was very interested in knowing what is happening to our body. So I believe that all of us should be aware of the immune system, and I feel that it is the most natural thing that happens. So we should all know about it, and this paper is a very good resource for that.
Thank you, Srishti. Nashra, the same question.
Yeah. So this paper is actually I where you because it was not specifically for any specific allergy. It relates with a more of generalized point of view, that how your immune system respond to the allergens. And as we all know that India is also a developing country, and I observed that many of my age people group is suffering from allergies, rather than if you will talk about the boomers of or millennials, they appear to be likely less allergic. But if you see the Gen Z, which is the 2000 people, so they are more likely to be allergic patient. So I would suggest that although this paper was published in 1993, but most of the people uh, from the Gen Z can relate to this paper, because most of them are allergic, rather be allergic rhinitis, food allergy, or something else, or just skin rashes. Because many of the times I observe that many of my friends are allergic to some of are allergic to some of have food allergy, some of have, and also some of them have the penicillin allergy, because they cannot take the penicillin. So as so which means that they cannot take any antibiotic. uh, so they are also allergic. So I would suggest that to read it, and to understand how your immune system respond is really helpful. And how what are the ways, because Mr. Lawrence mentioned some of the treatment advice. So earlier I didn't know that immunotherapy is something, but now I got to know. So there are few of the treatments, and corticosteroids and antihistamines, they may seem just vague words, but they are way beyond that. And if you are allergic, you should know about them, because they have so many side effects too. So if you're taking them, you should know about it. And this paper sums it all.
Yeah, and I think since we have all these rumors about vaccination and all, and people who have allergies, they are getting recommended that they shouldn't take the vaccine and all, and maybe they can get an idea about their allergies through these papers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was that one thing you could have presented effectively, but if one reads the paper, then only they can understand it better. So, did you find anything like that?
um, yes, like there was a point where they conducted that experiment where they observed the acute phase and the later phase. So I tried to make it a bit concise, because earlier I already told about the whole immune response. So if someone reads the paper, they'll get to know more about it, that how the experiment was conducted, and how they find out that there was acute phase and this is the late phase. And there are the 10 stages of the chronic allergic uh, disease. So this was one of the third stage. So they still, the paper is mystery, so you have to unfold it.
All right, that's great. Shrishti, did you find something that could have been presented effectively, but only if one reads the paper, they would understand better?
Yes, definitely. There are a lot of things. The paper in itself order. I feel that the experiments done by different scientists and the facts that were mentioned, they have to be read. And in my perusal notes, I've mentioned them. I hope I'm still audible. Am I?
Yeah, we had lost you for like 5 seconds or so, but then you're audible again.
All right. So, did you hear me? That's all I
We
wanted to
heard.
say. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, thank you, Shrishti. So, thank you, Nashra and Shrishti, for these amazing presentations. Personally, I liked it a lot because you guys had a storyline in both of the presentations. So, did you guys decide it prior to the presentations that you would have their storyline, or it was just a coincidence?
Coincidence,
It is a
purely
coincidence.
coincidence.
Fun coincidence.
Yeah, really. So, do we have any more questions? All right, I'll take that as a no, and let's formally close this session and meet tomorrow again. Goodbye, everyone.